Yes, good morning, good day to you. As usual, wherever and whenever you listen to these knowledge seekers workshops, we have extended the knowledge to a point that a lot of people are expecting the next phase and they are restless. That if it is what it is, how can we do it? Why can't we see it? And it's taken a man to see the truth about himself, millions of years, and now that they see, they have the intellect, they have the full understanding of the essence of their own creation, they want to see the change rapidly. The change will not come so rapidly unless we teach more rapidly, that more people understand that is a collective work this time as a human race, irrespective of color, race and religion and creed and what we used to call nationality. As one nation, as one planet, we have changed all the course. In the past 2 or 3 weeks, if I'm sure many of you noticed, I stopped after the teaching. The main reason is I get exhausted. The, to teach the depth of the knowledge and be able to transfer and to teach not only in the verbal but in the soul level takes a lot of energy. Takes enormous amount of concentration, and at the same time it needs not to be disturbed. It needs to be continuous. It needs to be there, that we don't go back in discussion back to the terminology of the physicality. It leaves the knowledge seekers to contemplate on what was taught or what was discussed, what was inspired, that they find deeper inner being in themselves. A lot of Keshe Foundation followers don't like this because it's got to be a nanomaterial, it's got to be a gas, it's got to be showing something, be doing. But in fact, is doing, is building you to question yourself. Is doing more than you can think. Is making you to evaluate your own understanding of your own knowledge, of your own trust in your own capabilities and abilities, which you always waved it as something which has happened. You never saw yourself to be what we call in English so deserving to wish and receive. And you always, I was lucky I received. Now you understand, is my wish. I am in control of my soul, not in control, but I can communicate. I can allow my soul to understand my desire. Physical. In the future, we'll wish for our souls. This moment of transition, we wish and we like to see it in the physical life. Or seeing that my wish, because I said, I did, has done what I wanted. In the teaching of Tuesday, I refer to the physical soul, the soul of the physical part of the body of the man and the soul of the man. And there are a number of questions people want it to be explained more. Go back on the universal one language, but universal one nation, one planet teaching on Tuesdays, which the 16th part was last Tuesday. And I explained some points in there because of the question and discussion which was going in the background. We try to put some teachings on Tuesdays that it brings, is mainly for Universal Council members to understand more and more about their position and their work. But part of it becomes part of the teaching. So it becomes part of enlightening each other's. Listen to it and then you understand more about what we're going to discuss today. The beauty of it is now we are aware of our own action, physical life, in our respect to our soul, to our creator of our physicality. And we go in more depth, we try to understand more and more. But I try to keep away more and more from systems, manufacturing, or somebody has done something with a gas or whatever, because we have to evolve, otherwise we hang on to the past. It's in a way, deliberate way, trying to you to trust more in yourself. As I always said, you're the last man standing. What are you going to do? What are your wishes? Or do you decide, that's it, I'm alone, I can go? Or you understand, I am who I am, I'm the soul which I am. And through the development of the technologies we have shown, in understanding them, I can create what I need. Even if you understood the creation of amino acid, if you understood how amino acids work, if you understood the teaching of health section, then you should have realized by now, I can create a partner. I can create a partner in a physical condition or in the soul that I can communicate with, that I'm not alone. This is where we are evolving to. This is what will become. The story of Adam and Eve is a story which is brought to humanity by those who have traveled the space. The last man standing, Adam. Man has reached that point. Man, with this new technology, is gradually maturing to reality. When your soul leaves your body, where is it going to go? It becomes the creator of new life. Creating new life means being able to create a soul which you can share, a twin. So, if we understood fully what the teachings are about, and I've gone many, many times over the teaching, the last man standing. Who was the last man standing? In the history of man, we called him Adam and Eve. Adam is the last man. You are the last man in your life. It's you who create the condition. Through the change of the soul, you learn how to inspire your souls, how to interact with your emotions, how to change your emotion with zinc oxide or whatever. But now you have to step up. Because this is the direction which goes back to the beginning teachings. The last man standing. The neutron. The center of universe, which on its own, by division of itself, led to creation of all these galaxies and the suns and the solar systems and the rest of it. So this is what the purpose is, to understand we are the creators. Our soul is the creator of our physicality. And if we find and understand to communicate, to find an access to convert our desires to become the reality of physicality, of satisfaction of our physical part, then we have become the Adam. We have become the creator of our own lives. We always saw, to create, we need a partner. The partner is our physical soul in respect to our soul of all the fields of our creation. I explained this in a very touchy way, very softly on Tuesday, but we can go deep into it. As you gain confidence, as you learn more, as you understand more. At the same time, it has become important for us to extend the knowledge of what we have here as a physical life. We have billions of us. We have collectively or deliberately or individually have found a way to live. We have moved across this planet. In our knowledge, we have divided this planet to be made of 5 or 6 different parts, and we have called them continents. And each one of us have moved across this continent. In olden days, it was very hard to go from one to another. It takes centuries for man to move from one hill to another, to the next hill and the rest. Now we travel the span of this planet in hours. We have developed technologies to do. then we understand what we changed. We made nations are worthless. So we made one nation, back to the origin, back to the essence of the creation of this planet, which is one nation, one planet, one race. And this has led us, very much like what we said, the field create the plasma in transition become the source, and in the source, then it gives fields that it leads in the strength to creation of matter. And then up to now, we are happy that we had the matter. Now we have learned that we can disassociate the matter and go back and make the plasma and the fields that we decide what everything to be. Now we understand we are all the same. We are all made of one thing, and that's collection of fields which always can accommodate. They do not need to enforce. In this process of development, human race has moved to these sections of the world, and we call them continents. And to go back from the solid state into the plasma, that we start becoming fields and all become one again, we have developed what we call the Earth Council, to make one nation out of the whole planet. Means one race. It means in the coming time, mankind will speak as one in the universal community. Mankind will make decision as one. We've seen today a beautiful move, very encouraging move. President Xi of China and President Trump of the United States, both excellencies meeting in China and talking about the peace, talking about how they have tied up the world into economical position, and maybe the dialogue for peace can strengthen. There is a lot of soul, there is a lot of move in the background. Is the wish we have. We have in our power to wish more, to in a way to allow our souls to get in touch, to be in touch with the soul of these leaders, that we steer the mankind through the knowledge, knowing that the peace loving is more stronger than the war mongering and destroying life, to push and to in a way encourage the soul of the world leaders to go in that direction. It's beautiful what we're seeing today compared to 9 months, 10 months ago, what was coming from other direction. Now is the talk of finding solution, not destroying, not fighting, not no more wars. 24 hours meetings of two leaders will lead to more peace talks, to leads to more confidence in building bridges, because they're realizing more and more. Commerce creates trust and creates peace, not war and not military. So for this reason, maybe it's coincidental that today the Earth Council, which is going to be taking over these present world leaders in the coming time, in decision making, in supporting the human race on this planet, are releasing their constitution. This is important. This is a dynamic system where mankind can add to as it changes for the benefit of mankind. You might see some striking things in this, but in 5, 10, 20 years time says, it's in the constitution, they knew it's going to happen. You have to trust, we know it's happening and you are part of it. This constitution is not for the future, it's for today. And what we do, what we have, what we trust in will become and has become the beginning of the peace process as one nation. There's a peace conference in China, 7th, 8th and 9th. 126 nations attending. And it's not coincidental. We listen to what the Earth Council has brought out as a constitution for human race on this planet, and in the future this becomes the cornerstones of the modern civilization, a peaceful nation as a human race. Do we have any members of the Earth Council who would like to share a screen and let us see for the first time the new constitution for human race, please?
I've been given the document, so I'll open that.
Do we have the member of the council? Any of them would like to start, please?
Hi, Mr. Kesh, it's Lisa here.
Please, would you like to introduce yourself and give us some knowledge about you, and then we carry on with others.
It's Lisa, and I am the Earth Council member for Australia. And I'd just like to say that this constitution has been drafted by all of the members, and I don't think that we could have done this even 6 months ago without Mr. Kesh's teachings and that deeper understanding of ourselves and where we're going has allowed us to create this document. And it took a lot of thought and a lot of understanding to get where we are, and I'm sure it's going to change in the future, but it's something that we are now creating what we want to see in the world, and this is the first step, because if you don't see it, you can't create it, and this is what we wish. So this is how we're going to create what we need to create. I don't see anything there, Rick.
I'm here.
You should be able to see it on your screen share.
Just see a
I'm
black.
here, Lisa.
Are you there, Rodrigo?
Yes.
Like that we can read.
The moment I was open, my internet worked. Turn on. Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Rodrigo Villosola, member of the Earth Council, and we've been working on creating this constitution. And if you allow me, I'm going to read it to all of you. The Constitution, the Earth Council has been created to guarantee that by giving equal rights to all beings, there shall never be another conflict or war on this planet and beyond. By any and amongst all created beings and citizens, the end of war and establishment of peace will be achieved through the understanding of the potential of all created beings. The path forward of peace must be to bring the understanding that solutions are achieved through dialogue and elevation of the soul of the opponent rather than through the degradation of demeaning another soul or physical state existence. Peace has to be the attempted goal of every move of existence of every being on this planet. The Council will be the flag bearer of this motion to create an environment where peace can be achieved on Earth. Peace amongst those who are from this planet or choose to live on this planet, as well as for those who are from Earth and choose to live in peace. Earth has to become the blue planet of peace and cradle of peace and the evolution of all races. Can you scroll up a little bit, please, Rick? Thank you. We, the Earth Council, acknowledged that Earth is part of the solar system, galaxy, universe, and all the universe. As such, the planet Earth needs to become a part of the cycle of creation by supporting the planet and all the beings that live on her to elevate themselves past the current cycle of evolution to a more fulfilling and peaceful existence. We acknowledge Mother Earth as itself a living entity that has her own soul. From every atom, to plants, animals, humans, insects, microbes, and more, and all those yet to be discovered are souls which share this essence of the Creator as well as the fields of the planet Earth. Together, we combine to make up the collective soul of the planet. Can we move it? Thank you, Rick. We acknowledged all other beings on this planet need to be supported, nurtured, and allowed to thrive in peace, including animals, plants, ecosystem, and other unseen beings, as well as Mother Earth herself. All will be supported to grow and thrive, as this will in turn enhance the lives not only on this planet, but all of totality. As well, acknowledge we are a part of the whole. Mutual cooperation, collaboration, sharing, and contribution to the well-being of all should be the core undertaking of the Earth Council. Our aim is to support the planet as a whole and every being that lives here. We will serve to create an environment of nurturing and harmony in which all beings may grow and thrive to their own unique way. Can you move it? Read, please. Thank you. 6 members of the Earth Council. Each continent of Earth is represented by 1 member. Those beings being Africa, Asia, Australia, Europe, North America, and South America. Each member represents the needs and wishes of all the people who live in their continent, as well as the totality of beings that resides there. Selection process. Members must have lived on at least 2 continents and speak at least 2 languages. This allows for a wider perspective of understanding when dealing with taking the needs of all humans into account. Clarity of souls. The 6 members of the Earth Council are here to serve from the understanding of the soul of their souls through the manifestation of physicality. Earth Council mandate to support and serve, provide and protect. Bring our souls understanding as beings on Earth. The power is within to govern oneself with the interaction of oneself and other souls in the realm of coexisting throughout creation here on Earth and the entire universe. Our intentions. Bring out the best of the best in every living soul on this blue planet we call Earth. Give ourselves of source manifestation in physicality, the freedom to live in peace, love, and trust on this planet and in space. Our wishes. For all living beings in creations to dwell in peace, harmony, and tranquility. It is time to access and share resources in equality, in a fair and just manner among all beings. The Earth Council will serve and support to provide all beings with the following: freedom of association, freedom of expression, freedom of movement, freedom from hunger, freedom from lack of resources, freedom to explore the path to understanding our own soul, freedom to learn, freedom to contribute to society according to our talents and what we find fulfilling, freedom to choose when or to end our physical manifestation, freedom from being the property of another, freedom from all suppression of new and innovative technology and information from peaceful application, freedom to share, freedom of thinking, Can you move a little bit more, Rick, please? Thank you. Freedom to love and give. Freedom of choice. Freedom of language. Freedom from a monetary system. Freedom from punishment, no captivity or execution. Freedom from conflict and war. Freedom from fear of others denying us these freedoms. There shall be no borders, no distinction between colors, races, or paths of belief. No cultural bias or monetary barriers which divide one from another or give unfair advantage to one over the another. There shall be no hereditary titles or inherited leaderships, roles which encompass kingships, family dictatorships, or royalty of any title. There will be no fear of punishment from any crime. Abolish all forms of imprisonment and capital punishment. Elevate the soul of those who did wrong through education and sharing knowledge of the soul level. All human beings will elevate themselves. Punishment has no place for the soul level and the understanding of its own field strength. There is no need for a monetary system which exchanges goods and services for work. We will create an environment where money has no place. When all physical needs are easily taken care of, work is done to bring pleasure to others and ourselves. There shall be no poverty or scarcity, as all physical needs will be met. No monetary value placed on anything. The end of the monetary system will bring the era of healthy human beings and through love between all on this planet Earth. Working should be for the pure joy of it, or the pleasure to serve others and elevate the souls of others as well as ourselves. All those who wish to serve as decision makers and guides can offer to serve with their soul's understanding and gain the consent of others, that they may fulfill their required role. Elevation of understanding will allow us to acknowledge the unique field strengths of a soul that will allow them to serve for the benefit of others and elevate all humanity. These people will serve to enlighten and inspire elevation in others. Leadership comes from the soul of man and with the agreement of others to serve. We respect all shapes and forms of all entities of this planet Earth and beyond. Can you move it up? Rick? Thank you. Every being on this planet, on the planet, shall be afforded the same freedoms. Those beings freedom to live in peace with all others in an environment of mutual dignity and respect. All shall have the freedom of choice to live in the manner they desire, as long as consideration and respect is given to others. All beings on the planet should be supported to enable them to live without scarcity. Basic access to shelter, water, food, safety, materials, and freedom of energy fields used on Earth or universal resources should be a priority, as well as peace and stability to allow for emotional well-being and the pursuit of enlightenment. All diversity is acknowledged as unique and diverse expression of the Creator and will be embraced and celebrated as bringing richness to our lives. Every being should be supported and encouraged to gain knowledge. Humanity in particular needs freedom to explore and understand this knowledge, which can only be gained without the need to constantly work to survive. Creating the tools to become independent, self-responsible humans must be a priority. The soul of beings will dictate and govern as a responsible, just, correct, fair way of life for the benefit of all creation in equal measures. For the first time in man history, with free will from the soul level, learning will start out how to know the soul from infancy. When natural disasters unfold, we must come and to aid all of beings in this area, showing no favor and supporting all. This includes understanding the ecosystem of the planet and what all beings need in their cycle of life. All beings will have access and share resources in time of abundance and time of disaster. When conflicts arises, we must negotiate a peaceful outcome for all parties. All humanity must be given an enduring peace. This is only achievable when all parties' needs are taken into consideration. All beings deserve protection from harm to their physicality and emotion. Decision-making process. No majority will infringe on the freedoms of any minority. Consensus will be achieved through dialogue and the elevation of the soul of the man. Every decision must be of benefit to all. Every being will be respected, fair and equal in all aspects. The souls of beings will govern every action in a peaceful manner. Bringing peace to the planet and all who live here must always be our goal. Serving the needs of all is the only way to achieve this. Invitation. Come all beings from the smallest to the largest of creation to celebrate, to taste, and to embrace the peace, love, trust, and freedom. All beings are here to raise the highest level of human and all consciousness, elevations of souls. All souls put down all weapons of aggression, hatreds, and differences. Let us have peace and tranquility on this blue planet we call Earth. All living beings will live in harmony with all creations on this blue planet we call Earth and throughout the entire universe. Guiding principles of physical conduct are appropriate until the souls of men understand their operation and position inside the boundaries of the universal principles. The soul deserves to know everything on different levels of creation. All living souls have the freedom of equally to live in peace and thrive here on earth and beyond. The soul of all beings will bring out the best of talents, strengths, and beauties to share and flourish throughout the creation. Take back the power of the souls to govern all living beings here on earth. Power is not lying on any leaders or entities for the purpose of controlling or domination of others, but comes from within us to love and give peace, love, bliss, and freedom to others. This early constitution has the best intention for peace, love, trust, and freedom of all souls, of all living beings, including others entities throughout creation. This constitution is to empower all beings to do the correct things with the pleasure to work and to serve alongside and with other souls to see the beauty in creation. The Constitution is fluid and may be adjusted at any time as the need arises. For example, men's conduct for peaceful coexistence, peace treaties between man and man, no wars or any shape or form of aggression in this blue planet we call Earth, and contact with other entities from different areas of the universes. Addendum. This section is intended to be blank for the additional amendments in the future as needed to maintain permanent peace in this blue planet Earth and beyond. Thank you all. Written by the souls of the people of the blue planet Earth, represented by the members of the Earth Council. Beautiful. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Now humanity has a new constitution to work on. Any word from any other members of the council, please?
Hello, Mr. Casson. Hello, everyone. This is Wayne, North America. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, mate.
Good morning. As you heard, this Constitution, this is for everyone, not just for every humanity, human beings on this earth. So right now is the beautiful time to be. It takes us about 3 months already to come up with this, since August 2nd to 2017. And now it's November 9, 2017. So it is time to embrace with one another and share the joys and happiness that we are here to live, but to not to survive only, but to thrive and to share whatever we have in this physical environment that we live in. But beyond that is the soul level is unlimited. And my wish is every breathing entity on this face of this earth will look at this. This is in English, but it will be translated at least the end of this week, probably at least 20 languages. And then end of the years, probably into the hundreds of languages. The language of this Constitution is very simple. Straight to the heart and the soul of men, women, children, animals, even to the smallest dust a particle. And this is so wonderful to have, and here it is for the humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does any other member of the Universal Earth Council would like to speak? We have more or less 5 members of the Earth Council except Dr. Parvis, who's responsible for North American continent. Alex, would you like to say anything if you have access to microphone? Can we connect with Alex? Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
Mr. Kesh.
Hello,
Hi.
good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Alex Ibrahim from Nigeria. I'm the representative of the Earth Council in Africa. And then I'm very happy about this constitution, which we formed in the recent past. And I hope the whole humanity is going to follow up and then observe the constitution as it's been written. And I think that's all.
Simple and short. Dr. Parvis is not with us. I don't see him on the panel. He's working very hard in his ways to bring a lot of peace in different parts of the world the way he sees. I represent the Earth Council for Europe as a replacement till the permanent member has been elected or selected. As a member of the Earth Council, it's very easy. A lot of these, what we see, is a God-given right for every human being. It needs a lot of understanding of the totality, especially when you read part of it, where it says, for example, no imprisonment, no punishment, and no execution. As I've said many times, I don't understand why man sees end of physical life as a freedom for them to do what they like after that. And in so many ways, elevation of the soul of the man should teach us a lot, that we can elevate the souls in a way that we reach to the point that we'll never have prisoners, and we will never have the wrongdoers to become prisoners. We will never have, by teaching the soul from the beginning the correct way, the point that we see the physicality as an end for freedom of the soul of the man. This is against and opposite to whatever we've been taught up to now. This is against all the ways which we have been brought up to destroy, that it confirms we can exist, to silence that we can do what we like. But on the other hand, in the recent past history of mankind, we have seen the examples of it. 27 years of imprisonment of Mandela did not turn the fire of freedom for South Africans. Putting him in prison did not solve the problem. But it actually allowed, somebody's microphone is open in the background, but they allowed a lot of people around the world to come together to understand, and collectively they worked to get the freedom for blacks in South Africa in their own homeland. We've seen this in many ways across the world. Imprisoning is not the solution. Elevation of the soul is. Not having fear of punishment brings a lot of pleasure, because then it means I have evolved, I have educated myself enough that I don't do anything wrong to have fear to be punished. In all the teachings of the past, in the prophet of the past, we see nothing but fear of punishment. Do wrong, we cut your hand. Do wrong, you pay to the box. You do wrong, you do this. You do wrong, that's the punishment. From now on, we elevate the soul of the man to the level that it never do wrong. It looks like unbelievable, but you have to understand, as you raise the soul of the man, as you raise the emotion of the man, man will achieve and will come to that point. Punishment has never worked. Elevation of the soul has always brought prosperity for the others to live a comfortable life. We don't need to worry about resources, which is written in the Constitution. Man should be free. Man should be able to teach, to learn, to work out of the pleasure, to serve. I go to the factory to build the light bulb that the others enjoy, that they can read in pleasure. They can have a life that they can see. These things at the moment, the way we have been minded over centuries, looks to be unbelievable. But in a coming time, when you have your own system at home to create your energy, your food, your heat and everything else, one thing will happen. You get bored of sitting home and doing nothing. And when you come out, everybody is there to help and support and serve you. Then you realize, what can I do to serve them? This is the beauty of the development of the soul of the man with this constitution. It set the mind, it set the soul, and shows the feeling of the soul of the planet, and the physicality of the man will follow. We don't wait for disasters to come that we can help. We help from the beginning, and when disasters comes, it was just another event which we just passed without harm. It will be a process that we all be educated to the knowledge of the soul of the man, and does not need university, does not need classes of schools, does not need any physical interaction to teach the physical life. We will learn everything to do with the physicality, but we learn through the language of the soul. We will have the fear of not being to serve good. We have none to the best of our ability. We won't have the fear of, I'll be punished or I lose. We choose our own level of understanding. We choose our own level of living. We would like to live the way we like to live, and who will help us to live. Collective correctness through the soul will be the pattern of life. With this new constitution, in a way, this is the wishes of the Prophet of the present. Which means, if you read, it's a law book. It's the new blueprint. As Bible has been a blueprint for the Christians and Quran for the Muslim, this is a blueprint for human race. Freedom from everything which man likes to be free from, but at the same time, no understanding, there shall be no infringement, but to be able to be there to serve if you're called upon. When you can have whatever you like and you're correct in doing what is need to be done, this ends the kingship. No one to be ahead of the other, no one collect taxes by the fear of the others that I'm better. Ends up with a fair, just and collective work. At the beginning, gradually as people, more and more people have the freedom to do what they like, in a way to serve, then we'll see new social structure, new social understanding, new ways of living. But promotion of the soul of the man will be the key to the change of the work of this planet. I refuse to work where they can make something that somebody can be harmed. There'll be no armed deals. There'll be a lot of good things deals. We have set the procedure for world peace, and we have the technology, the understanding, and now the mass movement to achieve it. In the coming time, we'll announce how gradually we put everything in order that it can be done. We will not ask for international banking. We set up our own banking system that everybody can call upon what they need. In a short time, we will deliver systems through the Keshe Foundation, the financial arm of the Universal Council and the Earth Council, that every man can have access to as much as they need to be able to live a life, but understanding if they take so much and they don't put in, there's not much for them they can take out. Collective awareness that it leads to the peace is the cornerstone of this development. And with it, now that the Constitution is completed, and we wait for the ethos of the Universal Council to be submitted in the next few days or few weeks, again on the Thursday morning hopefully, then the two will work together and the process of world peace starts. I thank all the members of the Earth Council. A lot of time has been put on it. But in fact, you member of the Earth Council, your job has just started. You have written your laws, now you have to implement it. You have written the way you see the mankind has to go. You have to encourage, teach, and enhance the understanding of this teaching and the Constitution. Those who are the followers of the Keshe Foundation, is for you to make sure every man understands their right. A video was made to be presented today in one of the largest international peace conferences, and is in the background, and it takes about 15-20 minutes. Those of you who want to understand from the beginning what it means to be part or understand the work of the Foundation, refer to that video. The links will be put on. And in so many ways, it tells you from our physical life to the aim of the Keshe Foundation. That video will be attached to this Constitution. It's essential for us to understand, to see the cycle, to understand the process. Any comments by anybody else regarding this before we go to the next step?
Hello, Mr. Keshe. This is Gatua from Kenya. I'd like to say that we welcome this new constitution for our planet. For many years, there has been wars that have always been unnecessary. There has been hidden knowledge to mankind and a lot of confusion. I hope and I'm sure that this new constitution brings to this planet a new beginning for all. And in saying all, I do not mean only humans. As the Constitution so clearly says, it includes all beings of this universe. I thank all those who took part, who wrote this, put their minds into this very creative and very peaceful item, Constitution. And I very much welcome it with my soul. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Cash, for teaching us, and Caroline for her ever support, forever, always supportive of our work, and for all those who seek knowledge under the Cash Foundation and the Cash Foundation Special Institute. Thank you very much indeed. That's all I have to share.
It looks like Boniface had his hand up and has a question or something to say. I'll allow him to talk. Hello, Boniface, can you hear us? Can you speak there now? You have to unmute your microphone. Hello?
Hello,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Rick. This from California, and I bring peace and love and honor to all the souls on the call. I just want to thank the Earth Council for putting this document together. You know, since the 2nd of August, when the One Nation, One Planet, One Race was ushered in, I've been looking forward to something like this, you know, our blueprint for governance. I mean, if you have a, you know, one world government, you need some template by which you're going to govern. So I'm glad to see that this has materialized, and I look forward to the implementation. My question is, if we have any thoughts, any ideas, any suggestions regarding this document, what is the mechanism for submitting that? Because I saw somewhere in there that whatever changes are necessary will be made as required, and who to whom and where do we send these suggestions as we are aware of it now or in the future?
Well, that's a good question. Also, people are wondering if the document is available to download or access at this time as well. Is it complete, and will it be available to the public at some location?
It'll be available most probably as of today on the Keshe Foundation website. The Earth Council has its own email address and communication line. Do we have the webmasters in the background? They can tell us where to go.
peace@theearthcouncil.org. This is the email address which can receive everything.
peace@earthcouncil.org.
theearthcouncil.org. I also put it in chat.
Can you put it on the screen, please?
Yes. I will prepare.
Would you like to share the screen or put it on the screen?
I will immediately, as I have it written.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, Mr. Cash, thank you for bringing us to this point, bringing us this far. And but I think our work has just begun. in a sense.
Could you share that link with us, please, Klaus? Vince?
Stanley, I think.
Stanley. Yeah.
Here it is.
Peace at theearthcouncil.org. The Earth Council is registered as an organization and will follow the work in the same pattern. There is those who are to do the work of what you see goes to the Earth Council, and those to do with the soul of the man goes to the universalcouncil.org. Any other comments or any other notes?
May I speak, Mr. Kish?
Pardon?
May I speak?
Can you speak louder?
I said, may I speak?
Yes, who's that?
Armin.
Yes, Mr. Armin Golan. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Armin Gulan, and I'm one of the core team.
Yes, a core team, a member of the directors of the Keshe Foundation International Global System, and one of the hard-working members of the Keshe Foundation. Carry on, Armin.
Thank you. I want to add one sentence in whole that paragraph, that each soul should be truthful to his own soul.
Souls are always truthful. They don't need to be truthful to their own soul. It's the physicality which lies.
That's my
The soul, and the soul has to carry the shame of it.
When I say soul, that means physicality. It comes with it. So that's what I meant.
I know what you mean.
That's very easy. Then all the problems will go away. That's what I want to add.
You're like me. Write to peace at the Earth Council.
Okay.
No preferences anywhere. Even I have to write to them.
I will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kish.
Thank you, Armin. Any other comment? I think this line of contact has to be put on that, at the bottom of that page, where it says any amendments. For any, please contact peace at theearthcouncil.org. It should be in that PDF file. If the members of the council can add to it and make it available to the webmasters to be placed on the website of the Keshe Foundation. Any other comments or any other wishes? What I think we have to do is to bring this constitution into all our teaching and go through it line by line and see how we can implement it. In most of the teachings, especially the workshops, the video which has been developed by the Keshe Foundation, by the head of the Keshe Foundation, Ella, for this purpose, which supports peace, will be added as a link to this paper. And it explains a lot why we are learning, why we have gone through the process of this method of learning, that through it we enlighten our soul and we understand our position. In a way, Maybe in the future we teach our children, our offsprings, about the existence of the soul and the responsibility of the soul, that they make a decision in how they want to serve their physicality, that their soul sees best for that life, than us putting them like a herd of kettles in a room and forcing them to learn about the history of man, how he killed others and what they can, and how they were successful in killing. Strangers, I wonder in the coming time how many nations will elaborate on their history of the past, and how the education history books will change in the schools. Does not matter which part of the world you're in, the history is taught to the children that we were the best, we are the conquerors, we did this and we did that. None will say we are the one who brought peace, created the condition of peace, and these are the things we achieved through peaceful movement. And then we'll see where we go. In so many ways, we have been forced to accept war as a common thing because somebody thought we better do that. I can show I'm more powerful. Let's see, now that this constitution is released, how we as Keshe Foundation supporters, we elevate the soul of those who we consider need supporting, that it can bring change in our lives. We see the father, the husband, the wife, the friends, the work condition, the boss, the priest, the imam, the head of the nation needs elevation, that we elevate them, that through it our soul finds its peace. This is the way to go. This is how it should be. And collectively we'll go into that movement. Collectively, now that the whole motion of the peace has been said, now we can do. Don't forget, there is an old saying, I know how, and I can. And I will achieve. We have the knowledge and the know-how. We have the will to see the peace through, and we will achieve peace. Anything else, Rick, before we go into the teaching part?
Well, I believe that Caroline would like to have the information from Tom Salas. Would that be appropriate now, or would you like to?
Go ahead, yes please, and then we go in.
Okay, is Caroline available, or I can show the pictures?
Yes, yes, I'm here, Rick.
Can you read the part from Tom, and I'll show the pictures, or how do you want to do that?
Yeah, I can move towards the text, but then I cannot follow the pictures. So if
do you want to use my laptop, Caroline?
Yep, I'm gonna come up. Just one second, Rick.
Okay.
You got to realize what these pictures are. Tom Salas has moved into Dominica regarding the hurricane they had. He was there 2 years ago when another happened, and it destroyed most of the.
Whoops, I think we lost Mr. Keshe right when I shared the screen, strangely enough.
Every time you share a video, I get kicked out. It's okay.
Yeah, and vice versa too.
Okay. So anyway, what we see is what's happening in Dominica today, a month more or less after the hurricane hitting the island. Is nothing but scene of devastation. He just landed there on Sunday, Monday, and these are the first pictures we are receiving from him. How we're going to support, how we're going to develop conditions We'll structure it in the coming time. We have allocated 40,000 euro in support of the Keshe Foundation movement in the islands, that we can do something. We cannot change physical damages like this, but beyond this, a lot of souls have been hurt. A lot of people need a lot of elevation of soul that they can bypass these conditions. And we'll see. There's some good news at the bottom. Just wait. I'll give the phone to Caroline.
Hello. You can hear me, Rick?
Yes, kind of. We hear a bunch of rustling, but we hear you there. Yes, indeed. It's clear now.
It's the change of microphones.
Yeah,
Sorry
it's always the transitions that are difficult in life.
Okay. These are the very, very devastating pictures, and there are only a few. And in his text, he says, I have not even been able to go to the worst part of the island. So this, if this is looking bad, you can imagine what the other side will show. But he hasn't managed to make his way up to there. And he says it's very badly affected. So he says you can only know what those people have experienced. It is so sad. And only here and there some green is starting to come back on the lower level where he's showing now. And then if you go up, Rick, beyond these bad pictures, I send you another picture. Go up. These are all what is on his path. People are cleaning, trying to fix. Yes, this is. Here is a little example, he says, of our garden in the mountains. The plasma really seems to have created a protective shield over the garden, because we had over 200 miles of per hour winds, and there are still flowers in the garden, and this is truly amazing. And if you go down, I send you quite a few. And this is around the house of his mom, where he was working so intensively, Tom, after the last storm, where he really became a knowledge seeker and putting whatever he learned into action. And even the birds are coming around to have some food. And he says, you can see the contrast between our garden and some other parts of the island. And I put the message through to Rick and I said, this is absolutely amazing.
Yes, I think he mentioned that there is actually, I think you can see here, there's actually grapefruits left in the tree, which would, if you see most of the pictures of Dominica, the trees are just flattened. The actual leaves are ripped off of virtually every tree, and the limbs and so on, but the leaves are just ripped. I don't know how a grapefruit would survive in such a circumstance, but it sure makes parrots happy, apparently.
This is exactly what was in his last message, that he says, if you see my first message and you look at the damage, and then you scroll down to the difference between the plasma has been sprayed so much love and protection, and it has passed the same devastating storm below as above, and it is not being touched. I will receive pictures later on. I know Tom is on the other side. He says he cannot come into Zoom because the uploading or downloading is way too high for him to be present, but maybe Vince can pick him up in or through Facebook, I don't know. But I know he is present, Tom, and he usually can pop up through Messenger, and he leaves me all this beautiful information. And this is amazing. When I saw the pictures, it is absolutely unbelievable. he has worked and created and passed all the fields throughout the gardens, because I have the previous footage from him when he was planting and showing and watering and how he was healing plants. I'll pass you back to Mr. Keshe. If you can get Tom online, it would be very great. But I think Mr. Keshe has more to explain. Thank you very much, Rick.
As we see, this is part of an amazing picture. And even that red plant is standing in 200 miles an hour wind. Has a history for itself. But this is what most probably we learn more and more. We allow the coexistence of the wind, the cycles of the planet, and the plants and animal life to live a normal life. This is the beauty of the change which is to come. We cannot blow away hurricanes. We cannot blow away typhoons. These are the part of the cycle of the existence. It's like interfering with the neighbor's garden. With creating these fields the way it's been done, is a clear proof, clear indication that each planet on its own has its own life, even though the wind, the storm have passed. Life cannot be all the time so rosy, but we can create conditions that clearly shows everything else needs to be done, can be done. The way we have changed the environment of these plants and the flowers, we can change the environment of the human race. Does not matter what the storm passes, they still survive, they still be there with a different kind of emotion than the suffering. And this is a very clear indication. I watched these a couple of years ago as he was sending pictures through, that he was encouraging people to set up farms like this, and now we see it. And this is an amazing picture in the devastation which is there. And let's see what comes up, see more what we can do. And he's moved in there to deliver the technology, not to deliver patches to do anything else, that the people can take over and live a normal life, and the next life to be much comfortable than this. If we can prove we can do it to ourselves, then we can do it for the others too. And this is how the change will come. We've done the same in Togo with a peace in the nation. And as we said, we have offered peace, technology in exchange for peace to the nation. And we will, as we are committed, we deliver to see the change, that we elevate the whole nation, education-wise and others. And this is important for us to see. Is Paul in the background, if he can fulfill us with the information what's happening with Togo. These are part of the works which we have taken up, and it is the job we have done, it's the job our souls has done as the Keshe Foundation. And we see the changes, small changes, but in a very big move. In a coming time you will see changes, huge drastic changes in different ways, as we expand the knowledge, the peace and other works. Is Paul there, or can he speak?
He's on the list. Paul, can you unmute yourself and see if you can talk? I'll try to unmute him. I'm not sure if he maybe has trouble with that, but it's always unsure what happens then. Okay. I'm not able to unmute him actually.
He's hung on to his headphone. He doesn't want to let go.
In new version of Zoom, he needs to confirm. Like he's unmuted, he needs to confirm. So if he's not behind computer, then he doesn't see.
Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Can you? Hi, Paul. Have you got a good connection?
How are
today?
you?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. So I am on the town to check what is going on because today is the last day for manifestation. So there is not of noise and everything is okay here. There is no blockage here. Life is there, peace is there. Everything is going to normal. And there is no difference between this day and the normal days. And what we have also absorbed yesterday was also amazing, where we see people manifested with army hand in hands, and they are dancing, they are playing like the party on the road. This is a real maturity that population have reached now. And I want to thank everyone for supporting peace, supporting by his soul. We really see the manifestation of this peace here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other question or any other comments?
Yes, Mr. Cash, can I come in, please?
Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Jalal. I am Knowledge Seekers, and I will say I am very proud and I am very happy to hear. I am the first who hear this magic words for the new constitution of peace, and I would like to say that it's not new work, but it is a new party with love. And I am really joyful to be part of it. Thank you, Mr. Cash.
Thank you very much. Any other comment or question? The process of understanding the new knowledge, which gains, the more we understand, the more confidence we have, the more we can work with it, that we see that we are the tool of the peace. We are part of it, and if it's our intention, it has to be as part of the change which we wish for the whole humanity. As part of our knowledge we learn and we gain is any time we wish to, for a elevation of the soul, but we think in the background to our own benefit, what will bring us, what it is. I like to have the peace, because with it then I can do this and that. You'll find out that this wish will never happen. I want peace. My wish is peace, because with peace I can have a beautiful life. That wish will never come. The wish has to come what it gives to the others. Otherwise you become a self-centered, self-wishing, self-processing entity. A lot of people say we made a lot of wishes, I make a lot of wishes, but doesn't happen. The wish will happen when it is of the strength of the reality of what it needs to be to happen. What this means is that I can wish whatever I like, but in my giving from my soul, are other souls happy to be in that position that accommodates everyone to be elevated. In so many ways, a wish has to be part of the structure of the soul of the man. As I explained on Tuesday, and some people wanted more clarity. What does it mean? What is the wish? Why do you say, what do you explain about the wish? A wish comes from the soul of the physical part of the body of the man. It's to do with the physicality part of the man. A soul has not and does not have a wish in a physical direction. It has, enforces its demand, but it cannot wish. It can give unconditionally to elevate the others and never looks to have a feedback. Once we learn this, once we understand this, then we move on. A lot of people say, I made a wish, but it didn't happen. I made a wish for peace, but it's not coming. What does it mean, wishing for peace? You can throw a bucket of water, but would it land on the plant you want to feed? Or would it land on the tarmac? You throw in the bucket of water, that the plant survives the dry condition, or for you to be able to have the fruit at the end of it, or the flowers of it to enjoy. Or you water the plant on condition of what might the weather be, or what might the plant do with it. My wish is peace, but unconditional. My wish for peace is to bring comfort to so many mothers who lose their children with war. To so many children who never see the father coming through the front door. To stop the mayhem that allows the damage to human race for generations. Because it's not that child who lost the father. He doesn't learn how to love and how to give, to learn from his father to his children. So the children will suffer not understanding how to love. And then because they haven't learned, they cannot take, might take steps to love their children. So the damage is a long term. I remember when I was very young, my last visit to Tehran in 1970s, my parents took me to see a close friend of ours. Somebody who was a childhood friend with my mother's family. He was a special protection officer of the ex-Shah of Iran. We were sitting in his garden with a river going through the house, and he beat his son up. His son used to be in the same school in the class as me. And I was offended. Coming back from Europe, seeing a child getting beaten up for me was a bit dramatic. And I put a question to him. I said, you're a high-ranking man, you're a military man. You, the Shah of Iran, trusts you so closely. How can you beat your child? How would you behave? Is it the same behavior outside the house? He said to me, Mehranjan, I was brought up in an orphanage. I don't know what love is. I was never loved to know is a word. I was beaten up and I forced and lined up, and I ended up in the army to do the same. And that age it clicked on me. Even loving is education. When we create wars, we lose that education from father to son. The best educator, mother to a child. Child to love the father back when he's not there. I asked him, so how you come to this point? He said to me something very funny. He said, Mehranjan, the only man who loved me and he showed me care for me was the Shah. It's the first time I've seen somebody care, and I've given my life to him. This is the process which, with love, we can change. Loving is giving. Loving is what we said in all the teaching. Being able to process the man's emotion in the elevation of the soul of the others, not for oneself. We can love through our emotion. We can love through our wish, silently, but we can change the position. But one of the things, as I discussed on Tuesday, has not been understood. What is a wish? How come that we wish for something sincerely and it happens? How many times when you're a child you wish something and you never told anyone, but the father or the mother came home with your wish? Did we ever stood still to think, I do not need a verbal language to tell mom I want such a thing? My desire to be pleasured by it was so high that my mother, through my soul, received the message, understood, and knowingly or unknowingly brought what I wanted. That it gave me pleasure to be alive. And with it, I give unconditionally back the love to the mother. Because it's not that the gift the mother gave you you're wishing for. Is the cuddle, is the kiss, is the emotion which you give back to the mother counts, not the gift you receive to satisfy your emotion. We always look at what we receive out of the wish. But if we look a step further, in so many ways, the one who brought our wish to reality receives more back, because it satisfies what was pleasure to me, that I could give more. In giving you the gift, the kiss, the cuddle, the hug, the thank you, and change of the emotion towards the mother is more powerful than the gift. Because next time when you wish, the mother sees, because you step the emotion one level higher, and she works at a higher strength as you do. This is what we have to realize. We are not educated, and we have to be educated. Our wish is always, majority of the time, is connected with our physical life. And strange enough, now that we understand through the soul of the man, we can communicate without calling the man on a mobile phone, then we have missed the key, as I said on Tuesday. The wish of the man is the soul strength of his physicality, which has direct access to the soul of the man. As we always teach, every entity has a soul, and every cell of the man has a soul. That's how it functions. And so when collectively we would like to see a warm shirt or a warm clothing in the winter, and our wish is that my mother will buy me that shirt or jumper that I'll stay warm, and the mother walks in to see what I've found in the market for you, which means you wished and it was delivered. He should have taught you, I am in touch with my soul, because it's my soul which has contact with my mother soul, and my mother's soul transfers the knowledge into the physical action. The mother never thinks, I'm going to get a kiss and a cuddle. The mother thinks, this gives him warmth and pleasure. In so many ways, for human race to understand the true understanding of a wish, we all have to become mothers. Because we established a link with the soul of a child, with the soul of life which we gave life to. But we realize we are part of the totality of the life of this universe. We have given life to, and we give life to. So, in so many ways, once the man matures to this point, then you understand that our wish, what we call wish, now has a strength, has a pain, has a strength. As the joy we understood has a strength, as everything else has a strength, now we understand our wish has a soul strength. Our wish has access to our soul. So we need to understand more about our own wish. We've seen in all the works of the Foundation in the background since the establishment of Universal Council and Earth Council, many times they say, my wish is this, and the others say, I'm present, which means I give from my soul. Your wish is mine, which means I access to my soul through my physical ear, which I hear, and this is what will elevate another soul to give from my soul to you. We've seen many peace movements, Greenpeace, many marches, many people, many times, moving, shouting, doing, but they could not achieve much. Because those who could physically suppress, use the guns, use the police, use the whatever you think, diplomacy, putting most of the Greenpeace movement in the background in all sorts of problems, doesn't matter whatever you call them. But for the first time, man has a new weapon with this technology. They can touch us with a gun. They can imprison us with their keys and their words. But now we have access to their soul. Now we have access to change them from inside, that their physicality changes through our giving, in what we give. I've been told not to speak about one of the biggest peace movement Keshe Foundation is involved in. But I've been asked, do not disclose. But very soon you will understand. One day we will disclose. And we'll explain how it has led to a lot of changes. Because, you listen, when I wish, and your wish is my wish, which means we give from the strength of our physical soul to the strength of our soul of our entity, our entire living, that we have reached the man. We have reached the society. We have reached to the point that a lot of people unknowingly are doing things which they could never think to do. Stand back and look how in the past months our wishes of peace are moving in a very, very funny direction, which a few months ago, a few years ago, was impossible to imagine. What we see even today, economical strength, bringing stability, is creating more and more peace condition. The next step for the Keshe Foundation supporters and for those who understand the work of the soul of the man has to be to bring wealth of knowledge to every man on this planet. Trying to teach to our soul, the teaching, the elevation of the soul we received through the teachings to the others. It is very hard, but they'll start working. We'll start seeing the change. We have to understand when we speak about what does it mean, a physical emotion, physical wish to become part of the soul, to be in contact and to be at the same strength of the soul of the man. I wish to have a jumper, and the mother, not knowingly, buys the jumper which I need because I feel cold. I wish through because I don't like to suffer in the cold, and my wish came true. So it means I have found a new language. I have found a new line of communication that why don't I strengthen it? Why don't I sit and wish that I achieve peace through my work and reach many more? If you stand still, you'll understand one point. As Mehran Tawakkali Keshe, my wish has come true. Because you're there, and doesn't matter what name you give to your physical body, your soul doesn't have a name, but has a strength which feels the essence of the emotion which I can and I felt what peace can bring. So I have touched you, and if I manage to touch you through my soul, so can you to touch the others to reach the elevation of the soul of the others to the level of the peace which you received. That collectively we create a new dimension of soul for humanity, that we bring the change about. But some people say, how do we, what do we understand in respect to the emotion and the physicality? It's the connection which we have to understand. Is how we decide to be connected to our soul through our emotion. Many of us, once we are educated in this new cycle of understanding and education, will find we only utter words of peace, love, changing everything towards it, and we don't think about what might happen. Time becomes irrelevant because there is plenty of time, because my wish is there to be. As I said many times in recent past, people at my age reaching 60 usually plan retirement and setting aside, enjoying life whatever is left of it. At 60, at 50 odd, I've started to give the pleasure of life to the others. I don't count when the last day will be, but I count, I'm short of time, I need more time to be able to give more pleasure of freedom to the others, that it creates peace on this planet. As I said many times, I work much more than I used to do when I was younger and I was very successful in my life. Which means, when you have to work harder, it means you haven't achieved what you're looking for and what you're trying to achieve. And that is peace. because it's worth it. Another 30 years, another 100 years. If we can put the basis, a solid concrete basis that the man understands the work of his soul, and then understanding that without the fear of punishment allows itself to elevate to a new dimension, then it's worth living. It's worth being here to be able to give more strength to become the supporting point for the others. But what is the emotion? How do we create wish, and what the wish is? What is the position of the wish? As we said, we have to understand in the physical dimension the reality about life, creation. They're all connected in one way or another, but how we position ourselves is a mighty job, because we have never been taught. Can I share the screen, please?
You should be able to go ahead there, Mr. Kesh.
What is interesting, I'll go back into physics because I'm a nuclear physicist. Physics to me is my, maybe the first nature. I understand physics totally, and I can explain everything in the world of physics in what it goes in the world of reality of life. As I said on Tuesday, we have to understand positioning. We have to understand collective and singular cell, soul cell, and then collectively what it means in where we are. When I was a student in university, I raised a very big question to the professors. And this question has never been asked, and it was, in a way, showed the limitation of the knowledge. But you can translate the same knowledge into the soul of the man, which you will understand more and more. In the world of physics, we have a lot of ambiguities. And these ambiguities then is used in chemistry and in biology, and then when the multiple cells come together in life of a man, in intelligence, and then the soul of the man. There is something which is important for us to understand. Going back to the beginning of the teaching, we all said unified field theory. Everything comes from fields. And when the two fields interact, they create a plasma. When this plasma, two of them come together, they create physics. This is a field, this is the plasma. This is now tangibility. Two plasmas have to interact. We call this an atom. When an atom comes together, two of them, then we achieve what we call chemistry. This is physics. And then we have a number of atoms that the field interaction has to create a new dimension of positioning. We call it biology. And then in the further steps, as we go further to add more interaction of more fields, that they create a field of non-tangibles, direction and dimension, we create what we call the soul of the man, or the soul of the entity. But in all conditions, once this created, they all individually have their own field strength of their souls. Even though they still collectively give to be of their own entity, but collectively give to have a central operation that they can all operate. In the world of physics, we usually end up at this point, and this becomes a dead end. Up to now. Because now is an atom, it's a matter entity. All we've done in all our teaching, we have gone back from this to this. So we have completed the cycle of life. Where we can take molecules, separate them, and put them back at plasma, and in plasma we create fields which now we decide what this field is going to be in any point to show its manifestation. We have become a master of the game. Now we understand every cell has a soul, and collectively cell create their own condition to be interactive, and when you achieve that, then comes the second group, which has its own soul again. And then we understand now this soul has to communicate with this soul, because they have to position collectively in respect to each other. Totality. I asked a single question from one of the leading nuclear physicists in the world at my childhood at the university. And that was very simple, very logical to me, but apparently through the whole physics world of him into nightmare, and I was told later on, you ask questions which has never been asked and cannot be answered. The question was very simple. In the nuclear industry, we talk about this. Division of a neutron into a proton and an electron. So we make what is known as hydrogen atom. This guy sits there, and his twin brother or half brother sits here. But one thing is for fact true, that both brothers have the central field center of themselves, and they have their own soul. Because they have their own center which dictates their existence. But this theory stands correct up to here. My question has been, which I know the answer, but they could not answer me when we pass this point. Now we have many souls, and we have many little souls. These are the protons, and these are the electrons. We know each proton and electron has its own soul, but the intriguing question is, which proton belongs to this electron? Which one of the 5 came from here and is part of this structure? Is this proton the matching electron of this, or is this proton the matching electron of this? Because this has a direct link with this, the same as if it's this. But at the same time, we have to remember each one of these has its own soul. The protons collectively accommodate each other. But which one of the electrons is a twin sister of the proton? Which proton? Then I was told, this is a random matter. They all become something. And I said to my professors, the world of nuclear physics stops here because you cannot answer me. You cannot force your lack of knowledge for me to accept to be the truth. Now, this raises a very, very special question. If you go back to the world of physics, there's an intriguing question. Very, very intriguing question. We call this, let's add one more, then we know what we are talking about. We make it 6 protons, 6 electrons. This is a carbon. With it, there are some 6 another creature we call, I call them backups. We call them neutrons, to space gap balance. But the intriguing question is, which one of these, which 4 of these protons has sacrificed its strength for the life of the others to survive? What does this mean? If you've done nuclear physics or you've done any physics, you know we have bands. What we call bands, where you have the center, the nucleus, which is collective number of electrons and protons, and then we have electrons, which are on the peripheries. And they travel, they rotate around themselves and around the nucleus to stay in the first ring and the other 4 in the outer ring. But in the center, we still have those 6 protons. The intriguing question is one thing. This structure has a soul of itself, because all the fields collaborate with a field force in the center that they can find their position. So, in an atom, in the center of the carbon, we have a principal field source that monitors, controls, and shares everything. And then the point of interest in the world of science is, we say this proton, we call him a number 1. If number 1 is here, and let's say this is the electron of number 1. But what about number 4? This is number 4 electron. This is number 4 proton. Let's say we found the matching partners. But this brings the world of science into another dilemma. And that is, this guy with this guy, number 1s, they need to give up less energy, but need a bigger magnetical field force to keep the distance from the center, not to be swallowed in by the bigger. But this one with this one needs lesser energy, but bigger magnetical field to keep the separation to be outer. So if we look, the center nucleus, through its soul, has come to an agreement and arrangement that all these electrons keep in position. But there is a bigger but in the whole thing, is that now this guy in the outside ring needs to share energy with this guy, and energy with this guy, energy with this guy, energy with this guy, that they can all find their position and all be able to work towards keeping the whole structure of the atom together. Where when it was individual here as a single hydrogen, it didn't need that much, it was a direct connection. Now there are many more directions, many more connections. But at the same time, don't forget, this electron had a soul. So did this. So did the proton which shares with them. So the collective energy fields of all the protons with electrons. In this state of single, it manifested itself as one entity. Now is not one entity, but is a collective field of the entities. Which, in fact, the central soul or the central field has a say in respect to all its movement. Here, as an atom, single hydrogen atom, it was easy. It manifested itself as a hydrogen. But here, as a collective structure with different field structure, it has manifested itself as part of the carbon. I hope you see the point. Is the wish the strength of the soul of the center, which has allowed this electron to manifest itself at this point? Where at this point, it's still an electron, but in a different strength dimension. This is the soul of the man. And in different point, it delivers itself as a physical manifestation of hydrogen or a carbon. Now you understand. If you could deeper understand the whole knowledge, it's the soul of the man who decides where and how to manifest itself and position itself. Because this electron on the first ring has totally different capacity and the strength than the one on the second ring, and then go further. But the interesting thing is the field strength of the soul of the two, which dictates the position of the small one to show what is going to manifest itself as. The soul of the physicality, which the electron gives to the whole body of the atom, is connected to the soul of the center itself, which is the proton, which is a controller of the positioning. So the physicality has its own soul, but is connected through the strength to the soul of the totality, to the center. So this is our physicality, this is our wish. This is where we would like to be shown as a hydrogen or an atom that it manifests as a carbon. To have a jumper or not to have, or what it gives to be collectively the others to become that we are as one. So if you understood the whole understanding in the whole teaching, then you understand your wish, which is giving you the physicality, has the access and is part of connection to your soul. Because if this changes, this has to move in a condition that it becomes part of another, and it manifests itself as a carbon. Because it wants to give the other 5 a condition to live. Has 2 directions. You manifest yourself as what you want to be, where you want to be, even though you are the same, but at the same time, you're always connected to the essence of the creation of yourself. If you extend this knowledge to a further point to understand, it becomes very, very simple. A proton needs an electron not only to confirm its existence, but to confirm it has a connection, and it can decide through the length of the fields. There is no handshake, there is no physicality. So it's the sun and the earth, because through the confirmation of the rotation of the earth around the sun, we confirm the existence of the sun, but still the soul of the planet has a connection with the soul of the sun. So is the physicality of the man with the soul of the man. It cannot be any different. Even though every part of the soul of the man, in physical part, has its own soul. This is why in all the teachings I explained, every cell has a soul. Every cell has an emotion. Now we understand. My wish of the physical appearance is my command, because with a wish, I'm in access. I have access. I can change the position of myself to become as part of the ring of a carbon, to manifest myself as a carbon that allows another entities of souls to have life, or I can be on my own. But in that field, I still interact with other souls, which they exist in the atom structure. Now you understand. Very simply, we can explain everything in the world of science to the work of the man. Then the soul of this atom gives pleasure to the soul of the others to create a molecule of whatever you want. Change the name to the sun, to the man, to the soul of the man, to the field, the strength of the center, in connection to manifest itself in another, that it creates the physicality. So that physical part has a soul connection with a soul of its own bigger entity, bigger field. So is the physical soul of the man in every cell, that collectively in the need, in comfort of the existence, transfers its knowledge to the soul of the man. That the soul of the man collectively in touches with the mother soul. That the mother soul receives, confirms, transfers into the physicality, and you get the jumper. We all know this, but we've never been educated. I solved this problem when I was 12, 13. And at the age of 20, a professor in University in Nuclear could not answer me. I thought, I know much more than you do. I'm wasting my time. This is what the reality of the creation is. This is how, for those who are physical and want to have a confirmation that there is a connection between my wish and my soul, is on the board. Now you understand. Now you understand how much you already know about the work of your soul, but you've never been educated. It's very much like I eat pancake every day, but I never knew how to make it. Now I know. I need a flour, I need an egg and some milk and a lot of loving to mix it. I tasted, I had a bit of salt, I had a bit of this to get it exactly to fit my emotion, which is the pleasure of eating it. Now you can eat, communicate and joy and be able to give that pleasure to the others because you have found the path to communicate with your soul. My wish is my command. Now you understand. Because I know access through my emotion, which is the elevation of the soul of the others, and my soul is the beacon of it. But a lot of people say, why doesn't it happen today? I wish for peace, but you have to understand the principle of accommodation. The principle to be ready to change. And being able to elevate the soul. As I said, many peace movement came in a lot of shouting, but they missed the main ingredient of the pancake. It's loving. It means giving to the pancake, to the rice, to the flour, to the milk, exactly what it needs to satisfy my soul. That it gives me a physical pleasure, that I enjoy in what I have created. I enjoy creating peace, and it's my wish, and my pancake is ready to eat. This is what we have to understand, and there is no need for trusting yourself. Now you need to understand yourself. You need to understand the work of the soul of the man, which we always have access to, but we never knew this is the door to the supermarket of peace. On every shelf there is one product: enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Made exactly to taste for you the same as the others, which gives you all pleasures to be part of the peace. Because there on this shelf we only serve one thing. Same as the other shelf in the rest of the supermarket of human life. Peace, which means I receive what I need. Peace, which means I give. I don't care what I receive because I know I will have the pleasure of seeing somebody else elevating. This is why in the Constitution it says there shall be no imprisonment and no execution. To the man who wears the uniform of the police, this is unbelievable. It's a sweet dream. But the policeman forgot. We have reached his soul. It's him who's got to look for a job. And his job is to elevate the soul of the people he calls criminals. Educate them. They will not become. Teach not out of fear. Teach out of pleasure. The time of punishment and fear is over, because the soul of the man knows the reality. Because now we have found a way to it. And it takes time to change millions of years of habit. Unless we decide now, today, and then we still have to be in control of it and in charge of it, what we are doing, and the way we are doing it, and the reason we are doing it. We will manufacture, we'll build, we carry on living, because just because we have peace doesn't mean we can sit down and we can create a magnetic field nor gans of the food we need. I don't need to do anything. I sit down here and I get fat on it. But the strange thing is, most of the people who use the GANs materials as a food, they lose weight. Because they find out the body finds its own balance and they are very peaceful and they are happy people. So then comes, what am I going to do? I'm going to be in this planet for 100 years, 200 years. I can't sit and just watch. Man is interactive, sociable, and sociably strong character for being with others. But the problem is, when we send you to space, do we have to build a factory inside that you have something to do? Do we open a bakery that you need to be a baker on board, that you have something to do? Or what will be our job in these massive spaces we call the spaceships that we are hoping to create, where in fact the reactor of the spaceship is within us, within the soul of us, because we decided on which ring of this reactor we wanted to sit and be visible. Very close as a hydrogen, or part of a ring as a helium, or a little bit further with more fields going and coming, and which shows us as carbon, iron, lead, whatever you want. This distancing, which accommodates more fields of the others, that allows us to manifest ourselves. The more fields of the others become the cells of our lives, our physicality in the dimension of the space. You need 2 more electrons to become helium. You need 4 more to become carbon. The other one, it does the job of the kidney, or the one does the job of the liver, and the other one does the job of something else. And then there we go. You become a body the way you want to manifest yourself at the point of manifestation. Now we understand. At my young age, I tried to understand how much the man understands himself of the world of creation. And I understood one thing: we don't understand much because we never understood how things are created and were created. Now we do. Now we know how we can create, and we know by creating we can have whatever we like. Then you understand, even part of the new constitution becomes meaningless, because I don't rule no one, and because I have everything, nobody can rule me. Then there is no place for kingship. The more we understand, the more we can solve the problem, the riddles of life. And they tell me, why do you keep on teaching about the soul? There are enough ironmongers if you want to still carry on with the metal world. There are enough nanotechnologists nowadays. And now we have many Keshe Foundation plasma physicists. They understand more than the others. But at the end, the circle goes back to the fields, which goes back to essence of the plasma's condition, which creates and absorbs those fields at the same time, which leads to the creation, which you and I and all the created things in the universe are part of those fields interactions. Now you understand that your wish is part of the soul of your physical part, and you have always had access to the soul of the man, which is the soul of totality of your own creation. And the problem is solved. Let us wish Let us go to the point that we all give, wish a gift to our soul from our physical soul, which is totality of the essence of the are, in very much, if I can explain for you to understand, it's like the gravity and the inertia. Gravity comes from the center of the earth, and the inertia comes from the essence of the gravitational magnetic fields of the matters of the earth. But the two interact, and existence of one which is transferred into physicality confirms the boundary and existence of the planet. So is the body of the man and the gravity of the man. You call the soul of the man the gravity, you call the soul of the physical part of the man the inertia. The planet has both, and the totality interaction of between them both gives the physical dimension of this planet. So is the man. And in totality, the wish of the inertia confirms the existence and the position of the planet in the solar system. Now you understand, you're all plasma physicists and you all become master of the soul. And now you understand the connection and communication. Next time you wish and it comes true, you don't say what a coincidence. You say, I know the path to my soul to get what is just and correct for me, that the others allow me to receive. My soul has a faster language connection than me with the others. Any questions?
Sir, good morning. This is John here. Is this why then in physics we need a lot of energy to change one element into another? See, be it an atomic bomb or whatever. And if we use plasma in a plasma state, we need very little energy, just the wish of our soul to do this work.
In so many ways, yes, but we have to understand. Working with plasma, you decide which strength of the plasma at what point you want to change to the energy you want. With a matter state, you have to put so much and measure it that you get possibly what you want. You work with the matter fields which are already reduced, or you can work with the energy itself that it gives you at the point what you want to have, and there is no wastage. It's a very simple process. As I said, the transmutation of the field, if you understood the last few teachings, is the key to manifestation of anything in the universe that you might need. Remember, I used to say to you that you put your hand in front of you and you wish to have gold, you will create gold. Because you create that field strength. You don't need to create a huge burning furnaces to produce, to dig so much holes, to grab what the earth has changed. Now, you can do it yourself, but you have to understand your energy. You remember, they say, when the Messiah comes, it will be the land of honey. Now it is the time of honey. You have to decide which honey you want and what color you like the honey to be, and which plants you want the honey to taste of. You are the creator of it. And with it comes peace, because when you receive what you need, you have no aggression to look somewhere else to get, to create wars to get it, because you can have whatever you need. As I said before, in a very, very near future, go to the Keshe Foundation website and we teach you, as usual, and order yourself a machine which makes water, you order your machine which makes gold, you order a machine makes aluminium, and then you make yourself a machine which makes whatever you need. Then the machine understands your emotion, and if you really need gold, you receive gold. But if you really want to force to have a gold, that you have a golden house, I think you'll have more than the central banks ever reserved so much. We think the machines should be marketed around about $1,000, $2,000. You tell me I want a machine for gold, you can go to the factory and build it. So there is no desire for matter state. It's desire to pleasure, to see what it gives you if you do, and what fields you can gain from it. It brings detachment from physicality, because you can make whatever you need, whatever you like. Very soon we'll invite you to the factories of Keshe Foundation to buy these machines or take these machines and make whatever you like. When you finish with it, bring it back and make another one for somebody else, and come up with the more genius ways to make things you think is correct for you and the others to use.
Hello, Mr. Cash.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks for.
We can't hear you. You're cutting off.
You need to get your connection better,
Okay.
Boniface.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to thank you for elaborating on the soul of the physicality and versus the soul of man. And after your last teaching, I did some snooping around, and was informed that the average man has over 30 trillion cells in the body, and depending on how you calculate it, it's even a lot more than that. So that's a lot of little souls body besides the main principle, which we know to be located inside the brain. They also reported that over 200 billion cells are produced dying. So my sense is that those basically are transferring from the dying cells to the new cells that have been produced. Am I still coming through okay?
It's barely tolerable. It's hard to make out what you're saying, actually. But we kind of got the gist there at the end. Something about cells dying and they're being transferred over or something. I was still not clear. I couldn't hear the part of what you were saying. Can you repeat it or fix your connection, one or the other? Hello, you still there? I'm not sure what happened.
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, hello?
Can you hear me, Rick? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes. Do you have a better?
Okay, I got. Yeah, I'm sorry, internet connection. But the point I was trying to make was, given the volume of cells in our bodies, we have a lot of little souls besides the main principal soul. And also the fact that cells are dying every day and being produced every day in the billions. But I assume that we don't. What is happening is that these souls are transferring to the new cells that are being produced. The and it's silly because I'm not. I guess I'd like to know, what your opinion it is. If a part of the body gets amputated, let's say, if somebody's in an accident and loses a limb or something of that nature, what happens?
I'm going to take it a step further and then you answer me or somebody else try, because from now on we're going to share knowledge. Yeah?
Okay.
Have you ever thought what's going to happen to you when we physically say you're dead and we put you in a box, or whatever we do with you, and you decompose? What happened to the soul of all those little bits? The soul of the man has left the body. Now you have these physical little souls there. And let's say a worm eats you, or as in tradition, some beliefs, they leave you for the other animals to eat you. Does the soul of cells which you have left behind still stand in line of communication and in touch with the, what I call, the mother soul which created them? And now that you are consumed as a bit soul, as I call it, now you become part of the energy of the soul, because now you've been matched with the one who has ate you, soul level. Now you have connection between two, the one which originally created you and now the one which is partially controls you. So what happens to them? Is the animal which has eaten big portion of the physicality now has a connection with the soul of totality which has left the body? So would it be able, the soul of your soul, to change the soul of the animal that he will not eat anymore, because now he has you and you're part of it and you're a very peaceful man and you're a vegetarian, you never ate, according to you, a living thing, even though vegetables are life and living. Now take it a step further. You ask about the amputated, you go a step further, we are consummated, which means you've been consumed by something else. What happens to us all? Or do we stay in the future as a field eater, as the vegetarians say, I don't want to eat an animal? When we become man of space, we will not touch another soul because we don't want to be soul eaters. And then, as I said, and as is in the writing of the Prophet of the past, even the stone has a soul. So in the space you don't eat anything, you just take what is available, that you don't commit no crime, you don't end another life. This is what I said. If you don't get to that stage, it's a very dangerous place to leave man in the space. You look at something and says, I wonder how delicious that is. How many aliens can you eat before they eat you up? But what happens to your soul when you're consumed by another soul? You want to stay pure, I don't need something else, and don't get eaten? Or do we have a new lifestyle? We shoot the new bodies into space that nobody can consume them. What do you think?
Well, I'd like to say something about that condition, first of all, which is there's an interesting fact that I've run into in the last months or so about the numbers of cells in the body, which you mentioned, there's trillions and trillions of cells. But it turns out that when they count up these cells, that 95% of those cells do not have our own DNA in them. They're of different bacterias and viruses and other parasites and just things that make up our body that aren't even our own DNA. Only 5% of the numbers of cells are our own DNA. It's actually 5% of our body weight is unknown DNA other than our own. Like 95% of our body weight is our own DNA. But the number of cells, when you count up all those trillions that make up our body, then 95% aren't even our own DNA, yet we call them our cells and our body when we don't really have, are we calling all of the bacteria and all of the different enzymes and processes and parts of the body, is it all ours? And what are we saying when we mean I or myself? Are we meaning the soul, or are we meaning all these little tiny wee body parts that fall apart and eventually become food for the worms and so on?
But don't forget, from the beginning we have borrowed parts from the father and the mother, huh? We never had a beginning, if you look at it that way.
Well,
we are a collection of the fields of the others, and that's how we build our structure.
Was there no beginning before those two came together at the...
Oh yeah, go back to the creator. Go back to what we call God. And then go back to the Adam and Eve, the start of the creation. A field making tool for it that it gives it. If you go back to the origin of the creation of the creator, this is very, very fine definition if you want to translate it in the word of the man, in the language of the man. How did the creator made for it to be created? But at the same time, once it creates up, how did it end up to be the creator of others? How did the origin of existence in its totality, from the essence of zero, started? Was there a 0 point? Or how did things happen that the interaction of the field themselves has led to the existence of what we see in a very small speck of dust we call Earth in the totality of the universe? Where did the origin come from? What is and what are the part of origin? One of the theoretical physics in the universal community teaching, which man will come to understand, is very much like, as I said, when you have everything, the scientists of the universe are elaborating on, which is good for man to know as you enter the universal community. One of the points of discussion in the world of universal community is that are we within the fields of the creator that is not even being created? I try to teach this as part of universal knowledge in book number 2. If you look at the field as a ray, as singularity, what we see as the universe is still within the realm of the field of singularity of the Creator. He has not created yet. The friction within the fields of itself internally has led to creation of the Unicos. You got to understand, in the world of universal community and the Unicos, there is a lot of communication, there is a lot of understanding, there is a lot of work. What does this mean, if I can explain to you? Because as we go into the dimension, it's good to understand part of what's happening beyond, as we say, curtain of life on this planet. What I said is this. This is the ray which creates, or is the totality of the Creator. Has the Creator divided and has built another part, we call it offspring of itself, that the interaction between the two has created the gravity and magnetical, as you like to call it, and the interaction of the field of the two of the creation creates that friction, which has led to creation of the Unicos. Or what is more logical is we are still in the rays of totality of the Creator, and the interaction of the fields of the Creator internally has led to the creation of what we call universes as a Unicos. Then it brings you back to one point of understanding, and that is the Creator chasing his own tail?
Yes,
interaction.
Really big question. Thank you, Mr. Kish.
We have
the biggest question of the universe.
But we have answered this in the universe. Man cannot understand. The point is, in another philosophy of the knowledge of universe, we say something very simple. Is the Creator straight or is it circular? The first theory that the life has started internally and thus we are part of this internal structure does not conform with this. It more confirms with this. The universal thought in the elevation of the soul to understand the essence of creation, they elaborate on that creation of the friction. If you go to book number 2 or 3, I have explained this in a very, very touchy way, because that time I could not explain this to man. That interaction of the fields, if you go like what do you see, and then you see the offsprings, the circles coming out, is the interaction of these interactions lead to the creation of the galaxies and the rest? And is this what I've drawn exactly the structure of the Creator? I've made man in the image of myself, and the message of universal is very simple. You've been taught in a very fine way the knowledge of universe. That now you have it in the book, you can go back to it. Oh, it was there, but the knowledge is hidden. Man will unravel it slowly. But what we call, they say in the time when you see a lot of intellect and elevation of the knowledge, like in Egyptian time, when everything was, there's no difference between the workers, and there was plenty of time to elaborate and understand and be able to philosophize. This is what is going on in the universal community line of thought. Because they have everything they want. So they want to understand where is the Creator, which part of the Creator we are. And this has been going on for billions of years. And sometimes we hear the voice of the Creator. We don't hear the voice, we feel the essence of His creation. But there is a very big question in the theology of the universal community is, who is there to see what God is doing? Is he this? Or is he this? Or what we see through him is what we see as the Unicos? Or is this the Unicos? The universal community's line of thoughts are very simple. You send excursion to go to the edge of the earth. They play game. They send excursion to the edge of the universe to find the boundary of the creator. And nobody has reached it yet. But which part of our, is it still singular? Or has it become a circular? Is it the shape of a ray? Or has it become a plasma that it creates the life inside itself? I have built a system to replicate the structure of the creator. And it's amazing, it works. So we have a good idea how the creator is leading its fields, leading to the creation of the Unicos. The system now is used in Italy. I took it from the understanding of the work of the Unicos and I built it, and it's getting used in Italy, and I would love to see what it comes out of it, because they are looking for something else, but I built it to confirm something else with it. I repeated very much this structure. I repeated this structure, that the totality of the structure becomes the totality of the creator. That with its movement can change the totality of its environment. That it means I can become in touch with the creator, as I am part of it. But the essence of life, the essence of creation is very simple. Man is in dilemma of finding his soul. Universal community is trying to find the soul of the creator. And we have philosophers like we have on this planet, elaborating how the creator be. And as I said, one of the questions which is always sits on the table of discussion is that, is the creator within us sitting with us, watching what we are elaborating, because we are just about to crack what he is, who he is, what it is, and he is diverting our attention not for us to discover him, but, as I said, who is there to observe the existence of the creator? Then there is something else to confirm his existence. Then is he the creator? Or from inside we want to see what is outside. In a very hidden way, in many of my teachings I refer to a very simple word, and this actually comes from the universal knowledge, because I know, I've seen, I understand, but it's hard to explain to the man. They say the universe expands at 1 million kilometers per hour. But the universe cannot expand if the room for its expansion wasn't there to expand into. But what is it expanding into? Is it expanding into another universe, or is it expanding in the dimension of the field of the creator? It becomes another 33 billion cell of the structure of the creator. And then, is the soul of the creator, which has created the physicality of the, what you call itself, has made itself in the image of itself. But we still say a cow has a soul, so how come the God has created himself in the image of a cow or a fish? Doesn't mean man because he cannot speak. Or the philosophy, the intellect in the universal community is, let's find him, let's understand him, and let's thank him for what has created for us to have time. And the philosophers of the universe are hundreds of thousands of years old. They haven't managed to answer this because nobody has managed to get to the boundary of the creator yet, to see if he is an arrow or is he very much the structure of the plasma. And we think it's a combination of both. While it's moving, it's evolving. But what is it moving within? But where is its origin? Where is the origin? And what is the origin of the creator which we are part of? I would love to take you in one of these, what are called discussions of the creator. You'll be baffled because there's so much knowledge that in a way, knowledge trying to rob another knowledge that be no more, but if we give you this, can you add to it? Not that we know we are intellect, we are much cleverer. It's very much the way we try to teach you. But the question is, which part of this 33 billion in the structure of the creator we are? You thought you solved the problem, now you have another one on your plate. Then you find out, finding your soul now becomes very easy because now you got a bigger problem to solve. Now find the soul of the creator. If you cannot find his physicality.
That's a good challenge.
Oh my God, I've been busy for billions of years with it. I'll give you the answer one day. But when you make when you move the goalpost to a higher level of understanding, then it makes it easier to understand the one lower, because you now have to reach the new understanding. You're solving the problem of the bottom is easier. Now, the reason I brought this up is, now, as I said, we'll take man into space to be equal to the others, that you don't become subordinate. So now that you understand a little bit of what is going on beyond the screen of the man's life, in the universal community and the rest of it, then finding the man's souls and the operation becomes easy. Because the goalpost from today is raised a little bit high. If you're busy with nano coating machine, you're quite welcome because you still have to progress. But if you have reached to understand the operation of the soul, now understand what is the operation of the soul of the creator. Which part of it are we? And are we that important? Even though we are a speck of dust in the solar system, in the galaxy, and in the universe, that even we think we are so mighty, we are actually mousy, tiny little thing. But is our soul big enough to be able to reach and touch the soul of the creator? Because with our existence we confirm the physicality existence of the creator. Go back to that atom, electron and proton. That little electron confirms the existence and connection of confirmation of the soul of the proton, that it can keep everything together. So does the creator needs us as our soul to confirm the physical dimension of his existence, and we are part of it. We are that little muscle on a tissue of a cell of the kidney, let's say, and we are not aware. If we move, if something goes wrong with us, the whole body goes through the pain and the body is crippled. So goes back the point of Sadi at the United Nations. بنی آدم اعضای یکدیگر. Which means we are all made through one cell, through one body. And this body is part of the body of the creator. We are not just the dust in the speck of this space of the universe. Our soul carries his soul. Bless his name.
Hello, Mr. Cash. This is Klaus 2 from Austria. Hello to all. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We discussed yesterday in the medical teaching and some days before with Jimmy and Lisa to start a little education program to come closer in touch with our soul, and I call them universal connection. And Monday afternoon we will start this and bring in this knowledge to the whole community.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Education of the soul of the man will be the cornerstone of the entry of the man to the universal community and understanding of his own existence.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And this is also what's been coming up in the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group, which was last night or yesterday, whichever look at it. We even had a diagram that was quite similar to the diagram that you just showed, with the interaction between the core of one entity and the core of another, as opposed to the interaction between the surface layers, let's see, of the physicality interactions. And I was comparing it to sometimes when people meet, they might look at the clothes of a person or their shape of their body or just some of the superficial things of that person and maybe judge them according to that. Whereas another person might just look them directly in the eye and have a being-to-being contact with them and may not even really notice their clothes or the shape of their body because they're interacting on a different level. So we're just talking about different levels that we as humans tend to fall into. And you mentioned before, Mr. Keshe, of the matter level, the nano level, the GANS level, and the plasma level, and then becoming eventually a plasma manipulator was the term that came out at that time, where one has more control of these plasmatic fields and you interact on a field basis rather than physicality basis. So we seem to have these different levels, and would it be true that people tend to fall into these different levels? And where's the absolute in those levels in terms of, can we make a direct connection at from any one of those levels? Can we still make a direct connection to the source inside of us and to the source in the environment without having to pass through each level to get to a higher one as such? Is it possible to take a direct method and essentially become the absolute, become God?
There is a school of thoughts. There is a line of what we call discussion. There's a line of understanding that in the structure of the unicos, being part of the ray or the plasma, either way you look at it, we sense vibrations, we sense fields, that the belief is the vibration of the creator, is the field of the creator, in a way coming from interaction of the fields within it. We don't talk about like when you make sensors to listen. We try to sense it through our soul, which means you have to go deeper and deeper inside the strength of the plasma. You'll find out in the world of the universal community, we have managed, and still is part of progress of the universal community, in breaking more and more into understanding of the creation of ourselves. The way I can explain it which is the easier way to do. If you look at this, at the moment, man with the knowledge, understanding, and strength of his soul is there. In the universal community, in the strength of understanding, we might be somewhere here. And that's billions of works, billions of years according to man. Because we can unravel stronger fields to understand more. And this is how it's happened. But in that process, we feel, it's the vibration of the soul, if you like to call it. A noise, a field, it's a feeling. What we call the feeling of the creator that can penetrate. It doesn't mean that the man cannot hear it, but we never understood. It's very much like a wind, as you always say.
It's almost exactly the diagram that we made last night, which is we had the spiral was drawn by someone, and we worked with the outer spiral parts, which we've discussed before. You've discussed before the there's the different rays and so on in the outer parts of the spiral. But then the idea came up about what about the connection that's basically to the principal source, that source connection that we know that we feel, and feel between two beings or between what people call God and themselves and so on. It's a more direct thing, but are we feeling just the outer parts of that spiral, or are we getting closer to the core?
We have not become more sensitive, is the wrong word. We have not become more aware of the higher strength in us. We need to become more aware of higher strength. If you go back in the teachings and go back in the pictures you've shown today, we don't create a condition to be different, but we create a condition that who's happy to be in this condition will take place and live with it. It's not domination, but it's more living within that I feel good with. So the soul does not matter how far we can go deep to understand more of it. We'll come to understand the soul of the creator. How close is our soul to it? Or the way we said through the physicality, we had the emotion, we can get in touch with the soul because it's of the same strengths on the physical soul of the physicality. Do we have that in our soul, that with it we can become in touch to see the beauty of the creator? The man now, as we teach more and raise the level of the understanding, very soon many of you will come to understand and see your own soul, because now it's not that far to reach. I know many people are trying different ways and they see it and they can't believe the confirmation, but now they're at it, they go the wrong way, trying to see if the physical manifestation of what they seen they can repeat, and it doesn't work. Oh, it just happened last time. Never look for confirmation. Be there to confirm the existence of the others. I wish the jumper, but the jumper came, but I did not want to give so much love for getting the jumper. I wanted the jumper to be warm, that I can show off in front of my friends that I have a new jumper. Which one is the one we are looking for? Now we have raised the bar. Many of you will start understanding the power of your soul. And those who do will start influencing the world leaders and will get the path of the peace. A few have started, but I see them getting sidetracked because they can't believe what they've done or what they've seen. But as I said, the minute you start looking for a physical confirmation, you lost the game. Go back to zero. And this is how it is. This is how you peel the banana. Actually, you don't eat it, understand it, what it gives you. You can't peel any further more of it, because then you have to give more. It's just, as I said many times, I have to play many tunes to fit many ears, that they all can have the sweet dreams of their life. We produce set of factories to make things that the physicality can receive. We teach because some people like to receive it and to do it themselves. We do all sorts of things to get as much information to the soul of the man, because man has lost trust even in his own ear. What do we say? I can't even believe my eyes. It happened. I wished for it and it's there. Stop. Stand still and look. So it means it's not a wish. It shows me I have access to my soul. But you cannot harm with it, because then you take from yourself. Try it. Try to harm with somebody with your wish, and then you see how badly you get beaten by it. In whatever another, in not receiving what you wanted, another punishment. And then you'll find out it's no use. I like to see what you like. It's very much like the mother comes says, what would you like me to make you? What would you love to have today for your lunch? And she goes and shops and brings for you to have what you wanted. As I said, we have to become mothers to serve. If man knew how beautiful the woman is, man will never do what is done to women. Now you understand why I love women. Women are there, they're the essence of creation. In every shape or form they carry soul with them, because they are the creator. One day, one point in their life they create. And then that creation becomes the essence of life. It's the beauty of the creation. It's not the man who created, it's the woman. And sometimes I say, I'm scared of what they call the next prophet will be a woman. But goes to a very deep essence of the creation universal community. Is the creator a woman, a female, a maker that is making the universe? And in so many indications it looks like yes. But that's for us to understand when we're mature enough.
Well, as I mentioned last night in the plasma group, that the mayor of Montreal is just been elected, and it's the first woman in 380 years. And there's actually several mayors of towns in Quebec in Canada that just had these elections that they voted for women for the mayors of the towns. And it's just revolutionized the whole political scene. They say it's the biggest political upset in 50 years.
They say the second most powerful woman in Austria, the second most powerful president in Austria after the president will be a woman. It's more powerful than the, what do you call, the prime minister, or what do you call, the chancellor. It's not a woman, it's a sense of creation. It's the soul of the creation to give unconditionally. And men, or what we call the part of the structure of us, maybe needs that for them to be able to show that they can be generous and they can be the creators. So in a way, to show they are kind and they are the givers and creators, they need us to come, for them to confirm their existence. One cannot live without her own. If there was nothing, how can a woman show she loves and she can create? But it's a very, very beautiful game of life.
Also, Canada has just given millions of dollars toward peacekeeping, specifically to put more women into the peacekeeping role, and to prevent some of the brutalities and abuses of various things such as rape or abuse and harassment and so on, of those who are the caregivers and the people that are protecting the caregivers out in the field, so to speak, in the military zones. So this is a whole new philosophy as well. And at the same time, Canada is bringing back the normal peacekeepers who have been doing this, and some of them are actually being charged and so on because there have been transgressions out in the field, and they've realized this over the years. And there's big changes now to try to stop that from happening. It's no longer tolerable by all the parties concerned. And this is.
I think your new prime minister is changing a lot of grounds.
He is, but he's also in some deep trouble right now because of these 13 million documents that have come out that are implicating a lot of the rich people of the world in how they've stashed their money and avoided taxes. And that includes the very person who's financed our prime minister's political party and their whole ability to win the last election. He happens to be one of the richest people in Canada, and he's been implicated in all this mess.
Yeah, but you got to realize, if you go back to 1980s, 90s, even now, the government encourages people to hide money.
Well, that's right.
But if you look, this is what we say in the new mandate, that there is no monetary position. The government structure is you work and I take 70% of what you earn away from you to one president with 2,000 bodyguards. This is discussion in Italy at the moment. Here in Italy, it's a very big discussion. Why we created the position of the president, that he needs 2,000 staff. So these 2,000 staff need to be paid, and they're paid all in 5-digit, 6-digit salaries. Where is it going to come from? You work, you have to pay for me to keep 2,000.
I just made a rough calculation of the amount of money that these people have stashed away over the last few decades, and it's roughly equivalent to the average debt that the average Canadian has. I think it's between $30,000 to $40,000 just in their personal debt, let alone other, just their personal debt. So we wouldn't have a personal debt that we're paying interest on and so on as an average Canadian in this country. That's where a lot of the money goes, is to pay the interest on the debts that you have, especially if you're a student with student debts. And that could have been eliminated if the funds were properly put into the tax system to help pay for all of that stuff. So it's funny how that goes, and now that's unraveling. So perhaps we were discussing last night, perhaps that top of the pyramid is kind of falling apart now, and all the bits and pieces are.
I tell you, raise praise from your soul to all these people. They are opening it left, right, and center. One of the biggest tax haven countries, which is going to come gradually under pressure, is Middle East, is in Emirates.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said before, anybody who steals money ends up in Dubai. It's become tax haven. And I don't think sooner or later the world governments would allow this to happen. Because there's a lot of things going on. The Switzerland, they're close, but they still find a way. But I always say, if you go to a government and you run a business and you say to the government, I'm a successful man, I don't want to pay 50%. I'm prepared to pay 20%, that I can expand it. Next year, my 20% will be twice or 30% more than this year 20. And then I can give to my workers that they spend, they create job. This is the discussion we had with the crash of the banking system 3, 4 years, 4 or 5 years ago. I explained this to the bankers. I had a meeting with the World Bank people. I said, the stupidity is you're paying the banks. For what reason? You give the money to the people who have a mortgage to pay the bank. Now you pay the money to the bank. Bank has received the case as collateral. Bank is free. He's got the money to do what he likes, or he pays that's whatever they lost figure on the computer. But now the man who's paid his mortgage, you paid him to pay, that $200, $300, $500 a month that he was paying the mortgage, now he's still earning, it can go to create, to shop, to buy, and then that creates new jobs and new economy. And this was not acceptable to the people who planned it. The problem is what these figures means. I'm looking at setting up the banking for the Keshe Foundation. We have to go totally different. We do not need to rely on the present banking system to be able to change control. Because if you don't have a card, you cannot receive. But we have a technology, we have understanding that we make everything available in a different way, that even what we set up as our ID cards, bank cards, will not be needed. We don't need, if we can guarantee, anybody comes says, I have 1 million whatever Universal Council points or money, can you pay me? I produce him 1,000 ton of gold, he's paid. We are looking at international communication banking, which needs no financing. That's one of the easiest way to do. You want to pay, I guarantee. I become the Visa card, I become the universal card. Anybody can spend, and anybody comes to me and says, I'm a manufacturer, I've sold so much, I need the money for it. I say, okay, how much gold do you want? What material do you want as a payment that you can sell in the market? We can produce it. And this is the way when you read the constitution of the Universal Council, has a lot of hidden information in it. So would it change our position? It will do. It's a huge move. And this way, I don't need a World Bank to confirm. I don't need to register a bank, because we are a provider. We provide. Anybody come to us, we say, what do you like to have? In shape of money, currency, whatever you're happy with. It's what I said couple of hours ago. The new Keshe Foundation factory is coming up. They'll all be selling material production. Gold, silver, and we give you the full recipe, everything. You buy a machine which produces gold. Then you say to me, I want to produce 1 kilo, 2 kilo machine, 50 gram machine a day, this is what I need. But the problem is everybody else will be producing gold. The way we have set up the knowledge, and the way the knowledge is coming through, makes present monetary system obsolete, that nobody needs to do a crime to hide the money from taxes. The government's policies pushes people to hide money. 28%, 30% of the national income in most of European countries, EU, is in black. Otherwise they can't survive. 60%, 70% goes to taxes. By the time you pay VAT, you pay taxes on the fuel and everything else, you think you're spending, but all your life is, what you do, about 20% is reality, we are getting a benefit from. The other 80% is all taxes. You work here in Italy at 2,000 euro a month, they pay you. You pay 800, 900 taxes, so you end up with 1,200. You pay 200 a month for fuel, which 160, 140 euro, 50 euro of it is again taxes. So you paid now 940. You go to buy clothes, you pay 20% taxes. So in average, you pay another 20% taxes of the other 1,000. So in fact, out of 2,000 you're supposed to be paid, 1,200, 300 is all taxes. Is it worth for me working for 700? But if I don't do, I don't have to live. But I'll give you now 700 you spend, then you don't need to waste your time. You don't need to work in a factory to make guns and bullets to kill the others. A guy said, I prefer to work with the Keshe Foundation factory. Where is it? I want a job now. You have to understand, this is the way, the beauty of it is, As I say, we have the technology, we have a know-how, and we have the will and the soul to do it. And it's not one of us anymore. This is the problem which I've created for governments. It's not cutting a head of a snake, somebody will die. This snake has got millions of heads now. And the problem, the biggest problem is the partners, the wives, the husbands, the sons and the brothers and the close people to these people have been touched by the foundation and are structuring it. One of the world leaders' wife is literally biggest supporters of the Keshe Foundation. Because they've seen it, they've used it, the pain they had, they couldn't do anything. It's done, it needs to come. They influence the husband decision. I want to see this is supported. And you know, wives have a lot of power when it comes to husbands. It's the same operation. We have to show we can deliver an alternative. Unconditional availability of everything. So if I can work 2 hours, 3 hours, 10 hours a day, a week, but I do a good job. I clean the street. As when just before we start, Caroline says, thank you, Veron. Because I do everything at home. I enjoy doing because it gives pleasure to my partner, it gives pleasure to my children, it gives pleasure to me that I can see that pleasure. I cook, I wash, I do gardening, I do everything. And they tell me you shouldn't do these things. Why not? Otherwise their life is wasted. This is what we do out of the pleasure. I spend 20 hours a day supporting the work of the foundation, that more people get educated, elevated the souls to understand, to, by new knowledge, they don't need to spend 10,000, 5,000, 100,000 on operations which can be done with a pen, with a patch. Doesn't matter what they sentence me to. Those people are doing it, and that's what it matters. I'll never become the Christ on the cross. There shall be no king to put me on the cross. This is the beauty of it. You're all doing it. Now, step up. Go to, you understand, you got the trust in the work of yourself. Go up to understanding the soul. And then when you understand that, you can change everything. Then when you read the new constitution for human race, it's all achievable. I live it. Can be done. Go back to some of my teachings 10, 5, 8 years ago. I said, and somebody called me from the world authority, says, do not do this, you cannot say this. Now we are coming to the point that we don't need shelter, we can move further out with the new space technology we're going to release, the way it's developing. You don't need to live in the center of New York for $3,000 a year, a month, that you pay 2,000 of it for rent and taxes and everything. You end up with 500, 10, 15 pound dollars a day to live. You move into the woods, you create your own place. And if the boss needs you, I can do it on the line. I can be there in the morning, go back at night, and I enjoy the 3,000, all of it in the wild in Africa. I register myself in the tax haven of an African nation which charges me 20%, but I do the work in New York. This is all becoming part of the reality the way it is. You don't, how many people this year will not pay for heating or pay very little, 30, 40%. Millions of you have made the magravs system and the new power system coming in. Very recently, governmental offices have called the Keshe Foundation, we need the power units which you have produced for the government offices, because the ones we have tested has shown 50, 60, 80% reduction. Now we are working hand in hand with governments. It's you who have brought this up. It's you, your knowledge, your work, which is changing the balance. When I received the text that the government has called for us to go in, they want more systems. Now I said to a lot of Keshe Foundation people who are around us, we're going to be nationalized. We don't tell people where we are setting whatever, but most probably, Some of the Keshe Foundation factories in the coming time will be nationals because it's a national asset. But because we teach, you can nationalize because we belong to you. Then your soul is free. You don't need to hide money that they can find you, and then you can pay whatever things on it. We got to change. This is the essence. When your soul is clear, when your soul understands its work, you will you evolve, you elevate to understanding more, and then you can share with others. When you're a doctor, you're there to support, to help, to change the pain of the man. When you understand the work of the soul and you can see you can change so much and teach the others they can do, you become the soul, you become the doctor, you become the educator, and this is all the purpose. Government encourage stealing. They encourage stealing by laws which have no meaning. If the government say, the maximum taxation, if you go in the foundation mandate, original Keshe Foundation, in the ethos of the Keshe Foundation, strictly in the Keshe Foundation says 19% for everything. Because 20% I'm prepared to give because it gives something else, but 80%, 60%, I'm not prepared to give free. Because what am I working for? Life becomes a slavery of banks. Now with the new system, we teach you, we give you, we developed it for you. You don't need to pay for heating, you don't need to pay for electricity, you don't need to pay for the water, you don't need to pay for the food, you don't need to pay for a lot of things. Fuel become totally free because you can travel with the new maglev systems which are getting developed. Voila. Who's going to tax you? Now they tax you on your breathing. The air you breathe is going to be taxed. But on the other hand, as I always said, then we go back. I'm prepared to work 10 hours as a teacher. That's my specialty for the school to be educating children. The other 30 hours, I do what I like. But I know I'll benefit somebody somewhere. You do both. You go to a shop, you want to get paid, use the new KF currency on your card. We pay. We are knowledge rich, cash rich, we'll be delivering gold as much as you like. And the beauty of it is, many of you know what to do and how to do it. So there is no more one man to get, it's millions to get. And the problem is, the biggest problem is, all these world leaders get sick. All these world leaders' family have a problem. Half of the governmental officials are sick. They've been to the best doctors. Don't forget, 3 years ago, we had a approach from the Vatican for the Pope. They tried everything. Till they set the Keshe Foundation system and we saw the Pope walking in the market. It took me, Armin and Marco a weekend to make a system for His Eminence the Pope. And we delivered it. Armin, are you there? Or is he asleep?
Yes, Mr. Keshe, I'm here.
Do you remember building the system?
Yes, we built 4 systems actually.
Even the most... Yep. Over the weekend, I was back in Rome Monday morning. Correct?
Correct, Mr. Keshe.
The most powerful... Pardon?
We done it with Marco.
With Marco, 3 of us. Actually, Arman and Marco did most of the job. I just said what I need is this. Saturday, Sunday in Barletta, late night. System was ready 5 o'clock to go to Rome. Even the most powerful men in the world need the help of the Keshe Foundation medicine. Medical application, health application, better improvement. This is what we are. We support irrespective of position and condition. And I can give you a number of world leaders, top men in the world who have used the foundation. We keep silence, but at the same time, we are there. Those are the people who support us underneath to develop and get further. Understand the work of your soul. You have moved away from physicality, then we are into the next step. Shall we call it a day? It's nearly 1 o'clock. We're gone for nearly 4 hours. Thank you very much.
Sure, Mr. Keshe.
I hope we come to trust our own strength in our wishes, which is the wish is a key or a channel or a way to our soul, that the same as I said, when you arrive in a new destination, you see it's good, you wish to be there, your body takes the form of the million years to get the evolution. Found that at the point of the wish, because now you have access to it, you replicate it. Now you understand more how it's done. Thank you very much for today, and I hope we learn more from each other in the coming time. But we still build the factories, we still do the battles with whatever, till we educate the whole of the humanity and the ones who live on this planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you indeed. Beautiful flowers to go out with, and all with the magnet system.
I think Flint's going to play some music as well. But this is the end of the 197th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, November 9th, 2017. And as always, thank you everybody for attending. And take it away, Flint.